Emergency. All personnel must evacuate immediately. You now have 15 minutes to reach minimum safe distance.
Sigourney Weaver fights a deadline to rescue a little girl from an unspeakably horrible monster in Aliens, one of the 4 movies we'll be reviewing this week. I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune. In addition to Aliens, we'll also be reviewing Roman Polanski's latest film called Pirates. It stars Walter Matthau. Also, something quite unusual, an American film shot mostly in China. It's called A Great Wall. But first, Roger begins with a vampire picture.
Well, if you've seen the ads for Vamp, you probably have the impression that the movie stars Grace Jones, but actually, all she has is a fairly predictable supporting role. The real stars of the movie are Chris Makepeace and Sandy Barron, who play a couple of college kids who want to hire a stripper for a fraternity initiation, and they pay a visit to the wrong nightclub. Grace Jones is a dancer in the nightclub, which is actually a front for a ring of vampires who drink the blood of unsuspecting customers. That's Jones's big act at the nightclub. The theory is that the kids will hire Jones and she'll come back to campus with them. This turns out to be the wrong theory.
Anyway, I was wondering, maybe later tonight, if you're interested in doing a little encore performance for a much more appreciative audience. I could definitely make it worth your while. Yes, I could. And I'd be willing to pay you top dollar, because I can see that you're a professional. And I like working with professionals. And I like you. I can see you like me too.
Although Vamp is basically a vampire movie and a thriller, the movie that it reminded me of the most is a little surprising. That would be Martin Scorsese's film, After Hours, which is also about a young yuppie who's trapped in an all-night big city nightmare. Vamp has something of the same style, plus vampires, and it has something of the same low-key, offbeat comic approach. In fact, it has some very good moments, especially in the way it develops the relationship between those 2 college kids after one of them becomes a vampire. But like so many movies these days, it believes that chase scenes and thriller cliches are going to act as a substitute for real imagination by the filmmakers. Vamp has some good stuff in it, but not enough.
No, not enough exactly. I think your criticism is right on target. Here they had a cute relationship between the 2 guys, with lots of jokes being traded, and then they have Grace Jones. If they had just kept this a 3-cornered piece, if you will, they could have made a very good, entertaining movie. Instead, they take us into this bar and give lots of screen time to a whole bunch of vampires that we don't care about, that look like the cast-offs who couldn't make it in Dawn of the Dead series. And so much time is spent with these slugs and all these guys and the chases in the night that the movie runs away from itself. It loses the energy, and I don't think, I think your point initially about Grace Jones being advertised in this film, that's misleading advertising in my opinion.
It's not really a Grace Jones movie. The movie has moments, little flashes of wit, of brilliance, of little imagination.
And lots of big flashes.
And then lots of big flashes of cliches. Is it just me? I mean, it seems like almost every thriller movie these days ends with the same 15 minutes.
Chase.
I've seen it before. It's the same setup and the same payoff.
If they're going to create these characters, why not develop them all the way? Why not go through the characters all the way? You know, right now, Karate Kid is a very hot film. We don't think it's that great a film, Karate Kid 2. But at least it stayed with its characters. It had the brains to do that.
That's right.
Coming up next, Roman Polanski directs Walter Matthau as an old-fashioned pirate. It was called Pirates, starring Walter Matthau as an old-fashioned peg-legged pirate trying to stay alive and capture a valuable golden Incan treasure. The film was directed by Roman Polanski, and it's supposed to be a comedy, but Polanski has a weird sense of humor, and that humor has bombed in his other comedy called What? And the Fearless Vampire Killers. This film isn't funny either when it wants to be, and it's a deadly dull action picture to boot. For example, when Matthau, lost at sea with a young Frenchman, finally hoists himself aboard a Spanish ship. He's clutching a little bag of treasure. Not too surprising or funny. Once on board, Matthau, known as Captain Red, finds the Incan treasure, and he proceeds to start a mutiny so he can seize control of the ship and its wealth.
I've seen fit to deliver this here vessel from the tyranny of your degenerate Hidalgo masters. I do hereby take possession of her in the name of the Brethren of the Coast, and shall henceforth command her. I am Captain Thomas Bartholomew Red. Long live Captain Red!
You think you've seen this movie on The Late Show before, and you turn it off after 5 minutes. And I also must say, I'm a big fan of Walter Matthau, but I didn't like his voice in the picture, where he's really throwing that voice out there, and I can hear it's Walter Matthau's contemporary voice being thrown into a pitch, and as a result, it breaks the reality of the movie. I know it's Walter Matthau in 1986 and not back in the period of this film. This movie runs on and on. They reportedly cut a half an hour out of the version shown last May at the Cannes Film Festival, where it was not well received, but the short version seems long to me, with hardly a fresh joke, and Matthau doing a pale imitation of my favorite, Captain Long John Silver. That was the one played on TV by Robert Newton. A romance between the young French boy he has as an assistant and a beautiful young Spanish woman goes nowhere. That's surprising for a Polanski film. And Matthau looks really uncomfortable wearing a lot of makeup and clothes in unbearably hot weather. I felt sorry for him for that, and also for me, having seen Pirates. But at least he was paid.
I think the real problem with this picture, and I agree with you, it's a total mess and a complete waste of time, is that nobody involved in it wanted to make a pirate movie. Polanski wrote the screenplay after he finished Chinatown more than 10 years ago in Los Angeles. It was in his bottom drawer.
Yeah.
He hadn't made a movie in 8 years. He's living in Paris now. A Moroccan producer said, "Do you have anything you could shoot that we could shoot in Morocco?" And Polanski said, "Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. This pirate movie."
Yeah.
And then they went to their Hollywood backers, who gave them a list. Now, Polanski told me this when I interviewed him at the Cannes Film Festival, gave him a list of bankable stars. You cannot make it with unknowns. You have to have one of these people on the list. And the first guy they could get to accept, for reasons of his own, was Walter Matthau. Probably the worst possible choice for a peg-leg pirate. So that if you look at this movie, it's doomed from the first 5 minutes. Nobody in it wants to be there. Polanski doesn't even want to be making it.
So you have incontrovertible proof that it was more of a deal than a movie.
It was a deal. This is a film deal on the screen, and they had a great ship. In fact, the ship could be on a ride. You know, it could be at an amusement park.
It probably will end up there.
Probably end up there.
Now, he did make tests in between Chinatown and this picture, which was a beautiful film.
Yes, he did. But this movie was just sitting down there waiting for somebody to be victimized by it. Next is the movies. Aliens, continuing the story of the most disgusting extraterrestrials in movie history. Our next movie is named Aliens, and I suppose it's technically a sequel to Alien, that very good science fiction thriller from back in 1979. But this movie stands alone, however, as a self-contained story, and in some ways it's probably better than the original. It has wall-to-wall action and a lot more scenes involving those unspeakably horrible aliens with all their rows of sharp little teeth and their habit of using human beings as incubators. The movie stars Sigourney Weaver as the only survivor of the original expedition which discovered those aliens, and now she's joined another expedition which is returning to the planet where they were found.
You never said anything about an android being on board. Why not?
It never occurred to me. It's just common practice. We always have a synthetic on board.
I prefer the term artificial person myself. Is there a problem?
I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't even... Ripley's last trip out, the artificial person malfunctioned.
Malfunctioned?
There were problems, and a few deaths were involved.
I'm shocked. Was it an older model?
Yeah, the Hyperdyne system's 128.2.
Well, that explains it, and the A2s always were a bit twitchy.
The android turns out to be more human than the humans, kind of like Mr. Spock on Star Trek. The group leader, on the other hand, is an inexperienced greenhorn, and Weaver takes over after patrol gets into trouble.
Fall back.
Cut off! Dude, something! Come on, keep moving, baby. Hold on, dude.
Ripley, what the hell are you doing?
She's going in to rescue a patrol that's on the human camp on that planet, and she finds out the extraterrestrials are deadly, but they're not invincible. She gets a briefing on some weapons to stop them.
We got 15 of these M40 grenades. Don't touch that. Dangerous, honey.
The only flamethrower?
Yeah, it's only half full, but it's functional. Had another one damaged. I don't know about that one.
How long after we're declared overdue can we expect a rescue?
17 days.
17 days? Hey, man, I don't want to rain on your parade. We're not going to last 17 hours. Those things are going to come in here just like they did before, and they're going to come in here, and they're going to come in here, and they're going to get us.
This little girl survived longer than that with no weapons and no training. Right?
I like Sigourney Weaver. I like her in this movie. I like her in almost everything she's done. But you may have noticed that you didn't see any of the actual aliens in those scenes that we showed you. I think the movie company is trying to keep the aliens a secret until you see the movie, or maybe they're afraid that the aliens are such a turnoff that if you do see them, you won't go to the movie. And that sort of leads into my kind of two-sided review of this film. This is one of those on the one hand and on the other hand movies. On the one hand, it's very well made. Sigourney Weaver does a terrific, very strong acting job. She holds the movie together with a powerful performance. The special effects are outstanding. The movie is scary and horrifying and disgusting from one end to the other, and I have nothing but admiration for its craftsmanship. But on the other hand, and this is a big but, at the end of the movie, you know what? I felt really bad. My stomach was all knotted up, and I was jumpy and unhappy and tense, and it took me a while to get back to normal again. Aliens was so strong it was overkill. It really did upset me. So as a movie critic, I'm giving the movie thumbs up. I think it's a good thriller. But if I were talking to a friend, I think I'd say, hey, I'm not sure you want to see this movie. You know, what kind of a mood are you in?
And I will use you and everyone listening to me as a good friend and say, hey, I think you want to see this movie.
Really?
Yes, for the following reasons. I think the key word in your review was overkill. This is pretty much wall to wall, the monsters are on the attack. And once we see the first monster, from that point out, you got about an hour or more of monsters on attack. And that was about probably a half an hour too much for me. And I have another objection. This is one of long-standing. I think one of the cheapest shots you can do in a movie is show a child in peril. You know, a kid in front of the street and will the car run him down. When I see a movie do that, I check out of that picture because I think they're taking the easy way out. And I know that the kid, unless it's one of these comedy splatter films or something, the kid is not going to get nailed, so it held no suspense for me. And this movie holds that little girl that we saw in the last scene in peril for quite a long time. She's probably in peril for 15 minutes of the movie. And I was saying, who needs the grief? I don't want to see the little girl grab.
I know your point about using the little kids. I'll defend it to this degree. In all the alien movies, there is always that question. Who is with us and who's against us? Because these aliens go inside of you and they incubate in here and then they pop out. And of course, since that little girl was alone on that planet for a long time before this group arrived, there is the question, is she a real little girl, or does she have one of those things inside of her? And I was waiting for that bomb to go off. I'm not going to say if it does go off or not, but it seemed to me that they were using her innocence as a thriller technique.
And all I'm telling you is I saw her in pain, and I was in pain. I am on your other hand.
Well then what about the other? What about Sigourney Weaver? What about the craftsmanship? It's one of those movies that you have to admire at some level.
I'll admire it only at this level. Good art direction. Sigourney Weaver has to hold the movie up alone, and she's not equal to it because there are so many monsters.
Oh, I think she is equal to it. I will give her that. Yes,
Coming up next, we have a disagreement. Coming up next, two Chinese families see the real magnitude of the Great Wall of China. It's something quite special, I think. It's called a Great Wall, and it refers both to the Great Wall of China and to the cultural wall that separates not only the Eastern from Western culture, but more specifically in this film, a Chinese-American family from its relatives who never came over to our country. This movie is about the fully Americanized Chinese family going to China to visit their relatives, and here's a sweet scene where Mr. Fang, the American, who works for a computer company in California, and his kid, who's true blue American, visits Mr. Fang's sister, who lives in Beijing.
这就是你姐夫。
哎，姐夫，昨天去飞机场接了你们一天，怎么今天才到？飞机5点没吧？
你好，你好，欢迎你，辛苦了吧？挺好的，你好，丽丽，快喊舅舅。
哎，丽丽，呵，这个儿，哎呀，这么大个儿，
姐夫，
欢迎你们。
你好。
That's so nice. The whole film has a whole movie documentary style feel, with scenes where the Chinese scratch their head at American customs and clothing.
嘿，这麻布袋，这胳膊肘还补个补丁。
Broken. There?
Huh? Oh, this? No, you know, this is a style, you know, the fashion. But this is the best, really. Pierre Cardin, no kidding. 哎，这裤子也是去年的，这小伙正穿高了。
您别瞎说了，人家这条新裤子，最时兴的样子了。
得了吧，臭豆子这粗布裤子，你舅舅啊，在那边混的也够呛，困难呐。唉。 You know, you don't understand. You know, these here, these are Calvin Klein's. 这时候我在武器干校劳动时候穿的，有好几条呢。这在你们美国能流行吗？
爸爸。
Now I know where I'm going to do my shopping.
Looks like you wore those pants in the Army, too, Gene.
Let's tell you, isn't this a coincidence? I could get 90% off. It's the plane trip, Roger, that's so expensive. That's a warm scene. And I watched this film really with my eyes wide open as both a travelogue and as a sociological investigation of East and West. The film is funny, as you can see, and insightful about such issues, important issues, as privacy and freedom and the work ethic. In fact, I like this film so much, I was a little bit disappointed in a climatic episode involving a ping-pong match between that young American boy in that last scene and a Chinese chimp. I don't know that that scene would actually take place in real life, and I think this movie is a lot better than that. I really enjoyed A Great Wall.
I enjoyed it so much, too, and I'll tell you something that probably doesn't apply, but I'll tell you anyway. I saw it right after I saw Alien. So I walked out of Alien like this, you know, and then I went into The Great Wall, and here was this human, funny, open, warm-hearted movie, and it was just what the doctor ordered. I like this movie from beginning to end, and also, I'm interested in China. I think everyone is. I didn't know what Peking looked like, or Beijing, as they call it. I didn't know what everyday life would be like. Everything in this movie was interesting.
As I say, the thing that the movies used to do way back is take us to a place that we couldn't get to go to Casablanca, okay? This takes us to China, and in an exciting way, and I enjoyed it. The other thing is the whole Fang family and their whole episode that opens this film, that could be expanded into a whole movie by itself. Chinese-American family in America.
It could. One footnote, both of the scenes that we showed were basically with footnotes, but I ought to say that with subtitles, right, the movie term, right, not footnotes. Well, my point, yes, about half the movie is in English, so it's not all subtitles, as you put it.
With my help,
thank you very much for that assistance. Now let's take another look at the movies on this program. We both voted thumbs down on Vamp, a comedy about college kids and vampires that has some good moments, but not nearly enough of them. 2 more thumbs down for the very disappointing Pirates, Roman Polanski's aimless adventure movie with Walter Matthau looking completely miscast. We split on Aliens. I liked the movie's craftsmanship, even though the thrills were so strong and the violence so powerful that it may be too much for some people. Gene found the film more repetitive than thrilling. And 2 thumbs up for the quietly charming comedy A Great Wall, about the cultural wall between Chinese Americans and native Chinese.
That's the film we really recommend, A Great Wall. That's it for this week. Next time, I'll be back helping Roger, and we'll be back with reviews of 4 more new movies, including one of the summer's most anticipated films, Heartburn, starring Jack Nicholson being unfaithful to his wife, played by Meryl Streep. That's next week, and until then, we'll see you at the movies.